Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Urban Update. I'm Byron Barnett. On the show today, bringing back recess as an important part of the educational process. Also on the program, a brand new cause funding platform specifically designed for Latinos. And we'll introduce you to an organization that's using the platform to accelerate economic impact through entrepreneurship. But up first, an event that will feature Princeton University professor Eddie Glaude, who will be the first speaker in a year-long conversation series on race and democracy in Boston. Let's take a short peek at a clip of Professor Glaude in a recent interview.
The second thing is that we have to change our view of black people, which means we have to change our view of white people. At the heart of this, I'm arguing, is the value gap. The value gap is the belief that white people are valued more than others. And that's not just simply a view held by loud racists like Donald Trump or others. That view is evidenced in our racial habits, Alexander. It's evidenced in the very spaces we occupy. Right? There's a reason why we know about the black side of town and the white side of town. There's a reason why we know about Spanish neighborhoods as opposed to white neighborhoods or ours. The very built space, the built environment of the United States reflects the value gap. We learn whether or not we're worthy or not in our schools, in our workplaces, right, in our neighborhoods, right? So we have to change our view of black people, that we're not disposable, that no population is disposable. And just because you're white doesn't mean something that you deserve something more.
That's Professor Eddie Glaude. He'll be in Boston this Thursday, October 13th, 6 p.m. at the Grove Hall Library in Dorchester. The four-part speaker series, which extends into 2017, is being hosted by the Boston-based New Democracy Coalition. It will give the public opportunities to engage in conversation with some of the nation's most profound intellectuals. The series is being supported by the Mass Humanities Foundation, Eastern Bank, and the Boston Foundation. And now joining us this morning is Kevin Peterson, founder of the New Democracy Coalition. Kevin, welcome to Urban Update. Welcome back to Urban Update. Love to have you here.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Kevin, let's start with why you are producing this series.
Well, we're at a point in this nation where it remains important to talk about race. 8 years after we've elected the first African-American president, we still have issues, racial issues roiling across the country, and particularly in cities. I call them the revolts in some cities around black men being murdered, the revolts in response to that. It was really indicative about how we have failed to really answer or give answer to the issue of racism in this country. There's lots of work to be done.
Okay. Now, we've seen a number of these types of events before. I guess, do you think this is something that there's a need for this to continue?
Well, yeah, there's a continuing need for the conversation. We don't deal with the issue of race if there isn't conversation, dialogue, people sort of intellectually engaging in conversation. You don't solve that problem if you don't pose deep answers around the issue and fight and struggle for results.
I guess this is not something that's resolved in one conversation.
No.
You know, when you talk to folks, people of different ethnicities, it's not just one conversation.
No, and it's not a one generation's conversation. 50 years ago, we did get in a very serious conversation around race during the civil rights movement, and there were tremendous policies that emanated from those young people engaging back in the 50s and the 60s. We have a new generation, the millennials, who are equally raising the question of race and how we need to be responding to race as an institutional poison.
Okay. Now, let's get into Professor Glaude's perspective in his book, Democracy in Black. Mm-hmm. Tell us what you can about that.
Well, it's a book that sort of looks at race historically as a historical fact and how it's impacted our politics. So we have the slave being introduced into the Americas in 1619 in Jamestown, Virginia. Ever since then, race has sort of been in our politics. When the Constitution was written, it was written in such a way that African Americans, black people, were 3/4 of a human being. So from the very beginning of this country's founding, we've struggled with the issue of race, and we quite haven't settled that issue. So Cloud sort of delves into that and is a book that's really it's a historical book, so it gives information, but it also begs us to really grapple with this national problem.
What, in your view, is the connection between race and democracy, particularly in Boston?
Well, you don't have true democracy if you don't address the issues of race. You look at Boston in particular. You look at the poorest parts of town are where people of color live, or where Black and Latino people. That reflects our attitudes around race. We haven't cared enough about Black people, as I'm talking about the city of Boston and the country. We haven't cared about enough about Black people to the extent that we've made them equal. So this conversation, I hope, will engage Bostonians to really grapple with this issue.
There's a perception, I think, that Boston is progressive around issues of race and democracy in Boston. Is that the case from your point of view?
From my perspective, no, it's not progressive. When you have hyper-segregation, apartheid, existing within the city of Boston,
That's a pretty strong word, apartheid.
Well, that's what it is. You have a certain races in the city living in a specific geographical area. Those people are Black and Latino, and they're also poor. So Boston remains a segregated city, whether we like to talk about it or not like to talk about it. The facts are that Boston is segregated along racial lines.
Now, let's remind folks about the event. It's free, and
it's a free event at the Grove Hall Library, 41 Geneva Avenue in Dorchester, Grove Hall Public Library. Free event. We're inviting the public to come out and engage in this dialogue. That's important for this city, but also important for the nation.
Professor Glaude, he'll be signing copies of his book there, Democracy in Black, as well. Any other things happening at the event? Or?
Well, there will be a reception before the event, so if anyone wants to meet Professor Glaude before the talk, before the discussion, they're welcome to arrive at that reception at 5:30. And then the program goes from 6 o'clock to 8 p.m. That evening. And as you noted, there will be books available for purchase and signing.
And again, the big part of the series, because it's running into
so for a year, and this is being supported mostly by Mass Humanities. For a year, we're going to have this dialogue around race, and we're going to be looking at race from a political perspective, race from economic perspective, race from educational perspective. So hopefully we'll have another opportunity to come in and avail your viewers to the other dates that we'll be having.
Absolutely. Keep us informed about it. Okay. Kevin Peterson, New Democracy Coalition, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Byron.
Okay, well, Era para Todos is the name of the first in the nation Spanish-language entrepreneur accelerator program that focused on unleashing creativity and bringing training and resources to Spanish-speaking entrepreneurs. We're going to talk all about it when we come back right after this break.